But I do think you made another very significant point, which is empathy, right? Unless you have empathy and unless you really raise the awareness of what it means for users, people are going to not get it. So I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
And Debbie?
Yeah, I'd like to talk about that point.
Yeah.
At HHS, we have a employee resource group of employees with disabilities. And I've been talking with the person who supports that group about creating an informal network to bring together employees with disabilities and developers of IT of all kinds to do activities together that people will organize them, will be organized as we go in order for developers to see how people use technology in real life, but also to get to know people. It will have social aspect,
Yes.
but it will be informal because creating something formally within the government is a nightmare, and usually has things that come with it that you don't want. And we hope that it was something that we will start small and hope that it will grow. But a lot of people are interested, and we'll start meeting in the new year and getting it off the ground.
From a vendor perspective, I want to address that because I think that goes back to process, right? How are companies engaging with the disability community as part of the way that they design, they develop, and they test their products? And so I think that's another question that goes back to procurement. So what's your process for basically being able to say to me, this is the conformance statement, right? And asking those questions. Do you engage the disability user community? Can I find those conformance statements whenever I need them? I don't want to ask you for it. They should be posted all of the time because that proves that then you are interacting with a company that not only is putting accessibility at the heart of what they're doing, but they're willing to come out and give it to you without any, without the ask. So if you go to Microsoft.com/accessibility, you will find conformance statements in 508, refresh, WCAG, and EN for our products anytime you need them. And I think that's important.
Debbie. All right, any more questions? Yes. What a great engaged audience. Thank you, guys. It's really good to get these kind of questions.
Thank you so much. My name is Farouk Khan. I'm from a company called Sapient in Arlington. And first of all, thank you so much for the panel. I learned a lot. And again, when we talk about web accessibility, everybody, I really doubt there is some kind of an expert over there. People are learning, from their experience. One quick, kind of a comment, and I think this apply on private industry, but also from the, government folks, which are kind of mostly over here in this room, is, at least from my experience, is sometimes people without disability, they don't understand the impact of not having a web accessibility website or application. So for example, if there is no alt tag on the image, sometimes people who can see, they don't understand the impact of someone who cannot see, or blind person. And I think that's why it is really important, before you even work on any project, try to show that impact to the to your group, project managers, designers, developers, tester, or whoever are part of the team, so they can see or they can understand the impact. Because sometimes if you don't realize the impact, you don't think that this is important, to apply in the code. So that's kind of my 2 cents. My question is about these requirements or guidelines or laws or whatever we call those, is sometimes there are so many ways of meeting these requirements. And what my fear is that if I'm implementing a website or an application, and if I'm meeting one requirement in one way, I have a fear that I should not be caught by an expert on web accessibility that he or she is thinking that why you did not meet that requirement in his or her way. So my point is that there are so many ways of meeting these 16 or more than 16 requirements. And I think that's where the VPAT comes to justify how you are meeting those requirements. So that's.
Can I say something about that just real quickly? So these requirements were built to be outcome-based and to not say, you must do this. Like we used to have skip navigation. Well, now we have something called blocks of text, skip blocks of text. And you could do it with skip navigation, or you could do it with landmarks, or you could do it with headings. You want to be able to meet the requirement. Because the problem is, and this is in that lessons learned piece, Italy, when they adopted WCAG 2 in 2007 or 8, it then required the techniques. And techniques, so that there's this thing in standards where something is normative, it's what is required and what's the law, sort of, if you will. It's not really a law, but, and then there's this, so WCAG has just this one document that is the requirement. And then it has supporting documents, and those supporting documents are the understanding, the techniques. Those things can change and be updated. The standard cannot change unless you get a new standard, a new version. And so Italy made the mistake of requiring specific techniques. And so then when technology changed and people weren't using whatever it was anymore, then people were out of compliance if they weren't using some outdated HTML element that didn't exist anymore. And so we learned that you cannot require a specific way to do something. It's the reason why we wrote the standards to be outcome-based. Does it meet this? And if you've got a new and interesting and different way to do it because we've got a new technology, then please do that. So there are things we've learned over time. Yes, this is how we're going to make tables accessible. But now we have these things called grids, and we have 3D grids, right? And so we're going to have new and interesting and innovative ways to meet these requirements. Does it meet the outcome? And that's the point. So I think if you get into arguments with companies about, well, they say we should do it this way, they say we should do it this way, does it meet the outcome? And that's the point. And the outcome is that it has to work for people with disabilities, and if they're using AT, it has to work for that as well. So
that's great. Thank you, Katie.